You are now tuning into a drop of melancholy. If you are in a good mood and wish to remain so, do not watch this video.
In a place like this, therapy is definitely needed. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, just look at how things are. Okay, for example, let's look at all this inflation. Okay, prices are steadily on the rise and nothing's being done to increase wages. Okay, that's enough to drive anyone crazy. Imagine someone with a family. Okay, imagine you're a single parent and you have 2 or 3 kids, and let's say you're working a minimum wage job. Do you really think you can support yourself and your 2 or 3 kids with the way this inflation is and you're making minimum wage? Or even if it is just above minimum wage, still, do you really think you can support yourself and your family? It's nuts. Okay, and like I said before, I have a therapist because some things I sustained when I was on active duty, and my therapist even told me that a lot of people that he talks to are civilians, okay, that had no prior military experience. And the reason they attend these therapy sessions is because they can't support their family and they feel that they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're not earning enough income and they have all this anxiety, all this worry, and it's crazy. But his name is Dr. Smith, and that's what he was telling me. He was saying most people, and he says mainly women, but he still talked to a lot of men also. But he was saying most of the people that he talked to are single parents with multiple children, and yeah, they have a lot of worry and anxiety about being able to support themselves and their family. So with all this depression, all this anxiety, I mean, can we really be surprised that the suicide rates are up? I mean, can we really be surprised? It's crazy. And I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect? You got all this pressure, okay? All this pressure's put on people, and at some point you're just gonna reach the breaking point. Back when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, I had a 9-to-5. Like I told y'all before, I worked at Winn-Dixie, okay? And I worked at several other places. Pure hell, all right? Pure hell. I would never work a 9-to-5 job again. Never, okay? It was pure hell. Even back then, this is like back in 2003, okay, when I worked at Winn-Dixie, before I was active duty, okay, before I joined the military and all that. But it was pure hell. I did not like it back then as a kid, and if I had to do that today, I don't know. There's no way I could tolerate doing that, okay? My hat's off to people that do it, but I couldn't go back to that lifestyle, because when I was working a 9-to-5 job, I hated that shit, man. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. Okay, I mean, I could tolerate it for like maybe a few weeks, but after that, I was like, there's no way. And the people I worked with at the time, they was on that job for like 8, 9, 10 years. Like that's been their life for like the past decade, and I just didn't see how they do it. And they used to brag about it. They used to be like, oh yeah, well, I've been doing this for 8, 9, 10 years. They used to tell me that, and I wouldn't say nothing rude to them, but in the back of my mind, I'd be like, man, how are you doing this for 8, 9, 10 years? I can barely do this for 2 weeks. And it wasn't that the job was hard or anything. I just didn't like doing it. Okay. For those of you that don't know, Winn-Dixie is just like it's a grocery store, a Florida-based grocery store. Okay. But I was a bag boy, and we used to have to like bag the groceries and then take the shopping cart, push the shopping cart out to the customer's car. And I mean, I didn't really mind that aspect of it. It's just doing it every day was the main thing. Doing it every day, the same routine, day in, day out. And the schedule was like from, what was it? Some days you'll work from 4 to 10. Some days you'll do 3 to 8. Okay, so it was part-time. So it really wasn't all that strenuous, but it's just going there every day and doing the same thing. It was just very repetitive, just very monotonous. By that second and third week, I was like, oh man, I gotta do this shit again, and I didn't really want to do it to begin with. Like, my dad had wanted me to do it, you know, because he wanted me to gain work experience at a young age. So he had wanted me to get the job. You know, I kind of see where he was coming from with it, but at the same time, I hated it. Okay, I hated going into work every day. Back then, as a kid, back in 2002, 2003, I thought I needed therapy. Okay, I thought I needed therapy because that's how much I hated going to a 9-to-5 job. Okay. Now the other job I had worked was at a furniture store. Now my dad was actually the owner of that furniture store, and he had several guys working there, and we would like deliver furniture. I didn't mind that because it wasn't the same thing every day, because when you deliver furniture, you would go to like a different city, a different town. Sometimes you'll travel like maybe up to 100 miles to a different place, okay, to deliver furniture. So it wasn't the same thing every day. You would interact with different people each and every day. And it was a little more strenuous than Winn-Dixie, but at the same time, I didn't mind it because it was something different. Rather than it being the same monotony every day, like at the grocery store, this was actually different, you know, because you're on the road, you're traveling, you're out and about, you know, and then once you're done with the deliveries, you return to the furniture store, and that's it. That's pretty much what your entire day consists of. So it wasn't the same thing every single day, so I could tolerate that job more. I honestly, I didn't mind that job. But yeah, I've had ton of work experience. I had other jobs that were similar to the job at Winn-Dixie, where you just go in, you know, you stand around all day waiting to do something, and it's just the same thing each and every day. And jobs like that, I mean, that's like 90% of jobs anyway, you know. Like I had desk jobs, like being in an office. I hated jobs like that because you're just stationary. You don't get to, yeah, and it's just, I just get bored with it, you know. And jobs like that, I probably lasted for like 3 weeks before I quit. I didn't even bother putting no 2 weeks notice. I just quit. I would just call and be like, hey, I'm done, I'm not coming in. And they would cop an attitude. They'd be mad, be like, oh, well, you didn't put in a 2 weeks notice. All right, I ain't putting no 2 weeks notice. I said I'm not coming in, and that's that, you know. And then I would tell my dad, I'd be like, hey, I quit the job. And he'd be like, why'd you quit? I'd be like, because I didn't like it. I hated it. So I would explain to him, and he would make me get another job. So I would get another job, work there for like a few weeks, and I would quit that too, because each job I got, they required you to submit a 2 weeks notice, but I never did that. I would just quit. I would just call on them, and it would fuck their whole shit up because they got a schedule set, you know. And then when you call in and tell them, hey, I'm not showing up no more, it screws everything up, because now they gotta call somebody else and they day off and come in. So back then when I was a kid, I wasn't really thinking like that. I wasn't really thinking, hey, I'm screwing someone over. It was more of me just being frustrated, being angry, and wanting to get back at the management. Because if you don't submit a 2 weeks notice, if it's your day to work and you call in 1 hour prior and saying you quit, it fucks them up. All right. And now they got to run around like a chicken with their head cut off and try to figure something out, you know. And that's why I wanted to do, to get back at them, you know, because they made my life hell, you know. So yeah, I would just call in on them and be like, hey, I ain't showing up, I'm done. And then like a week later, I just go pick up my check, you know, for whatever money they owe me, and that was it. And when I go pick the check up, they wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't say hi or hello. They'd be mean mugging me, you know, because I had the freedom to quit, and they had to stay there and do that shitty job, you know. And yeah, it's kind of like, oh, who you think you are? You get to quit, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I didn't like it one bit. And my dad's no longer here, you know, he passed away and all that. But at the same time, I'm glad he did make me do that. I know it sounds a little bizarre, but I'm glad he did make me get those jobs, because it kind of taught me a lesson at the same time. It taught me how shitty these 9-to-5 jobs are. Okay, and then when I reach adulthood, that's not something I would want to do. Okay, so I'm glad he had me get a job at a young age. Several jobs, okay, and I was able to experience people, okay, how people operate in just everything. It wasn't just the shitty job itself, but the nature of people, okay? I was able to experience that at a young age, like, because I always had good work ethics, and I learned at a young age that when you have good work ethics, a lot of people try to take advantage of that. They'll try to pawn their assignment off on you. They'll pretty much try to slack, and then you have to take up their slack because they know you got a good work ethic and you're gonna get stuff done. And at first I was a little oblivious to it when I was working, but I started to peep it a little better. I'd be like, wait a minute, you know, I'm a good worker. Why is he or she get to slack off and I gotta take their assignment, you know? And like the manager, sometimes they would make me pick up other people's slack. So that's what I'm saying. When I got tired of it and I would quit, I would call in like an hour prior to me showing up. I'll talk to the manager. I'd be like, hey, put so-and-so on the phone. You get on the phone, I'd be like, hey, I'm not coming in today. You're like, what do you mean? I quit. I ain't coming in. Well, you didn't submit 2. I ain't gonna submit 2 notes. I'm just not showing up. And then they would hang up. Sometimes they would hang up the phone. That's how mad they would be. But hey, I mean, it's just what it is. So yeah, but I didn't like it back then at all, not one bit. So when y'all be telling me y'all hate y'all jobs, I feel you. I totally feel you, okay? Because this is hell. It really is. Yeah, and people always want to brag about how hard they work and all this stuff. It's sickening, okay? And then when you speak like this, okay, when you talk like how I'm speaking, the first thing they want to do is call you lazy, okay? They want to call you lazy. They want to say you're like this new generation that don't want to work. No, that's not the case, okay? You see how shitty the work environment is. The work environment, 9 times out of 10, is not a very friendly place, okay? It's not a pleasant place. But these people expect you to just go there, zip your lip, like I always say, and don't say nothing, okay? They just want you to go in, shut the hell up, do your job, and make your little paycheck, okay? But yeah, it don't work like that, you know? So yeah, but if I don't like something, I'm not gonna do it. It's that simple. If I don't like something, then I'm gonna try to seek something better that I do like, okay? Another thing I couldn't stand when I was working a 9-to-5 job was the favoritism, okay? Like managers having their favorites, okay? There are certain people they favor over others. Like, for example, if my shift was from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., I would get there like at 2:30. Okay, I would get there at 2:30. I was known for always being on time. Okay, always coming in early because I didn't want to be late. Okay, that's just the type of worker I was. But this other chick, her name was Tamara, she would show up late all the time. Okay, if her shift was from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., she'll get there like at 3:01, 3:02, and no one would ever say nothing to her. They would always let her slide, you know. So one day I forgot to take out the trash, you know, and I had went home. I left at 8 o'clock, and this bitch wrote me up. She put me on paper because she was positioned over me, you know. She was like a cashier, but she had wrote me up, you know. And the next day I came in, they made a huge deal out of it. They was like, yeah, well, you know, you forgot to take out the trash, so yeah, we're not gonna put you in produce, because I had wanted to leave the bag boy position and go to produce. But they was like, yeah, well, since you did that, then we're not gonna move you up. We're gonna keep you working as bag boy. And I was like, well, you know, she, even back then I used to speak my mind. I was like, well, you know, I didn't call her a bitch, but I was like, you know, she always late. You know, who is she to write me up? She be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes late every day, and y'all ain't say nothing about that. And then it was like, oh, well, you don't need to worry about her. She's positioned above you. So right when they said that, I was like, all right, bet. Next week, I'm out this bitch, man. I'm gonna call in and I'm gonna tell y'all I ain't coming in. I'm gonna fuck y'all shit up. Then that's exactly what I did. Right when they said that, when they was like, oh, well, it's not your position to worry about what I was like, oh, okay, I see how this is. I see how this is, you know. And I was a 16-year-old kid, you know, so a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, okay, I see the corruption now. I see the corruption. She can come in 5 minutes late. Y'all don't say a word to her. She never got put on paper. She never got written up. But me, I made an honest mistake, okay, because being the bag boy, you also had to clean the bathrooms. So you got to go in them stank bathrooms and freaking change the toilet paper dispenser. You know, you had to swap it out, take out the empty rolls, put a fresh one in, and you had to clean the sinks. Okay, I'm talking about the male and female bathrooms. You had to do dirty work as a bag boy. And I just forgot to take the trash out. Like, I cleaned it, but I forgot to take the trash out of the female's bathroom. So, like I said, when I came in the next day, they made a huge deal out of it. It wasn't even a big deal, but they made a big deal out of it. And one manager was in there, Tamara was in there, somebody else was in there, and it was like, yeah, well, you know, you need to start paying more attention to it. I was like, well, I come in early every day. I do my job the way I supposed to, because I was a good worker. I never got in trouble. I did everything they always wanted me to do. But that one thing, they made a huge deal out of it. So that's when I called her out in front of the bosses. They already knew, but I called it out anyway, because yeah, you ain't gonna sit there and call me out for something minuscule, and you're showing up late every single day. So I was like, well, she show up late, y'all don't say nothing, why are y'all calling me out? I mean, be fair. If you're gonna try to call me out for something, be fair and balanced. Don't just nitpick at me making a minor mistake and then she show up late every single day and y'all ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all gonna act as though the other employees don't notice this. Y'all gonna act as though we're just gonna ignore it, or y'all want us to ignore it. Well, no, everybody else can ignore it, but I'm gonna say something about it. And when I said that, they was like, oh, well, it's not your business. I said, oh, okay, all right. That following week, I called in. I had another shift from 3 to 8. I called in at 2 o'clock, said, hey, I ain't coming in. He was like, oh, well, are you sick? No, I'm just not coming in. I'm done. I ain't working there no more. Yeah, and they wanted to make a big deal out of that, but there's nothing they could do. So, yeah, and it jacked them up because they needed people. They was already lacking people, and by me not showing up, it kind of threw them off. From what I heard, they tried to call somebody else and he couldn't do it either. So yeah, that's another reason why I refuse to do the 9 to 5 thing. Okay, because they play favorites. They have their favorites, and I wanted to share that story with you because with these favorites, they get away with things. So by me having good work ethics, by me always being on time, it really didn't pay off because I made one minor mistake and they wrote me up. Okay, I was reprimanded, but like I said, the other individuals show up late, nothing, because she was a favorite. You see what I mean? So things like that. That's why I can't tolerate the 9 to 5. And it wasn't just that grocery store. It's like this at most places. Okay, when you have senior management, a lot of times they have their favorites. Okay, and these favorites are able to get away with certain things. No matter how jacked up they are, they're able to just sweep it under the rug. Okay? And you, if you have good work ethics, like I said, you do everything right, it's not really like that for you. You don't get things swept under the rug for you. Okay? You get reprimanded, you get called out. So I was able to peep the game right there at that young age. I was like, okay, I see what this is all about. And yeah, a lot of people I speak to nowadays, they tell me the same thing about favoritism, and they hate their job because certain people get away with certain things. And I just shake my head. I was like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So that's another reason why I'll never return to the 9 to 5 thing. Okay, I'll never do that. And back when I was working, minimum wage was only like $5.25. Okay, back then. $5.25. So I felt like it could have been more. Granted, I was still a kid, you know, living with my parents and all that, but I felt as though for what I was doing, it could have been at least $6 maybe, because they had us go outside too and do work outside in that blazing hot sun, and cleaning those bathrooms, atrocious bathrooms. Yeah, that wasn't very pleasant either. Now again, when I was a kid, comparing that type of job when you're on the payroll to getting paid under the table, I can genuinely say getting paid under the table is much better. Okay, because I worked also when I was a kid, I worked a landscaping job. Okay, and the hours were more flexible. Okay, so rather than me being on a schedule, let's say from 3 to 8 or freaking 4 to 10, whatever, you pretty much show up for like an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours, and that's it. And it wasn't every day. Some days you might work 2 hours, some days you might work 3 hours, some days you might work 1 hour. You get paid under the table. But looking back, I actually like that better than working a regular job, because it's almost though you have more freedom with the under the table job. Yeah, it wasn't nowhere near as much BS as a regular job. Working the landscaping job and getting paid under the table, it wasn't like you're walking on eggshells constantly. Okay, because like with the other regular jobs I had, it's like you always got to watch your back. You always feel like you're walking on eggshells. Whereas I was working a landscaping job, getting paid under the table, it was like a breeze. Yeah, it was a lot more strenuous, but at the same time, you felt as though you had more freedom and you wasn't always, well, I'm not gonna say it was strenuous. It was just a little more labor intensive. It wasn't like hard work though. It was just landscaping. You're just laying sod. For those of you that don't know what sod is, that's like the grass pieces, just stuff like that. It's just, yeah, just work like that. But I like that better than working at a grocery store. Okay, and the people I worked with the landscaping job, everyone got along with each other much better. So I don't know, it's weird how that works. But again, when I was younger, I'm glad I acquired that experience. Okay, because nowadays, I'm gonna say it again, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go back to a 9 to 5. Okay, I hated it back then, and with the mentality that I have now, I would hate it even more. Okay, because back then I was young, like I knew how things were a little bit, but now y'all hear me talk all the time, so y'all know how I am. There's no way I could go back and enjoy that. There's no way. There's no way anyone could force me to go back and do that. There's just I refuse. I refuse to do it. And then no one called me lazy because they know I spent all this time doing other things. But I'm just saying, with this mentality that I have now, there's no way I could return to that. It's not feasible. Okay, it's not. I don't want to deal with the stress, the headaches. I already know how it is because I hear people talk all the time. I hear my buddies talk. They hate their jobs and they tell me. And at the same time, it deters you. I don't tell them nothing to make them even more discouraged. But at the same time, when you hear all this stuff, you hear other people telling you this stuff, it deters you from wanting to return to that. You see, it's like I'm hearing this. You're telling me all these horrible things about your job. Why the hell do I want to go back into that? Why do I want to put myself in that predicament? Yeah, but that's all I got for this one. I just wanted to share that with y'all real quick. Just something I've been thinking about recently. So, yeah, because I just left the store, and it's kind of funny because I was at the cashier, and it was a chick that was gonna bag my groceries, but I told her, don't worry about it, take a break, I'll bag them, and she started smiling because I guess no one's ever told her that before, because most people want their groceries bagged, but I told her, don't worry about it, I'll bag my own. So she went over and she sat down. I guess she really needed a break. She was genuinely happy. I told her not to worry about it. So I bagged my own groceries, and I looked around, and like everyone was in there, all the workers, they were just looking miserable. I was like, man, my hat's off to y'all. That's what I was thinking to myself. So I got back in the car and I just decided to make this video, because it reminded me of the time I was working at a grocery store. So I know what it's like, and yeah, when I used to bag groceries, no one ever told me no to take a break. Like, they're pretty much entitled, like they want you to bag their groceries. Like, no one ever told me no, don't bag their groceries, but yeah, so it's just one of those things, right? I'll catch you on the next one. Embrace your inner darkness. Y'all stay safe. Peace.